What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another BTR video.
We got our end of the season NFL tier list post Super Bowl. I know it's a little bit late, but we're getting it out still. But before we get started, please like the video, please subscribe. Also, comment your thoughts down below. Tier list videos, a lot of differing opinions,
A lot of debates.
So,
Without further ado, let's just get right into it with the first team, the obvious S tier team.
all right, so you want to go with the Chiefs in S tier?
Yes. Do we need to explain?
Yes. I'm just kidding. No. I mean,
Super Bowl champions.
yeah.
Yes. If it was based on the regular season, they probably would have been like B or C. But Super Bowl champions means you got the job done. You're S tier. Simple.
All right, I got the Texans. The Texans are going in S tier. And now you might be wondering, why the hell are the Texans S tier? The tier list is sometimes we base it off expectations, everything. Playoff success, regular season success, how they were
Preseason
supposed to be.
expectations.
Yeah, preseason expectations to now. The Texans were supposed to be a top 3 pick in this draft.
Well, Arizona should have been.
Well, yeah. Like they should have gave Arizona 2 top 3 picks.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, Rookie of the Year. Will Anderson, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then you got
D'Amico Ryan's rookie head coach, who should have won, in my opinion, Coach of the Year.
And then you got a playoff win, a division title. So that screams S tier, especially for a team that's supposed to go like 4-13 or something like that.
Not even. Yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
no debates for me.
You got the Panthers.
F, easily. They put a great coaching staff in a way. Like that was labeled a great coaching staff, not just Frank Reich, but like everybody around it. Ajero Evero, if I'm not mistaken, as a DC, and then you obviously had Josh McCown in there as one of, not the OC,
the QB coach.
QB coach who would have helped Bryce Young, and I forgot who their OC was, but Frank Reich, not a great bounce back year at all. Probably won't get a head coach job even ever, let alone anytime soon. I had my projection was they would finish second or third. Obviously, I valued Bryce Young highly, and in retrospect, CJ Stroud went off. Right, I didn't think he was gonna have a CJ Stroud type year, but at least competition to provide. Who we thought the Saints were gonna win the division, but yeah. So I think they're F tier. They had 2 wins at the end of the day, anyways. They should have had more wins. And on top of that, you're also F tier because your pick goes to the Bears. So it's not like you could reevaluate Bryce Young if you wanted to, or even trade down the pick like how the Bears did last year. But you give Bears another option to either trade or take a QB of the future.
Yeah, so like Panthers, everything that can go wrong
went wrong.
went wrong.
So,
all right, I got the Saints. Saints are putting at D tier. I would put the Saints at F tier, but ultimately they did miss the playoffs by 1 game, right? They were up over 500 record. In our books, we thought the Saints were winning the division easily. We thought the Saints would have a great record, like at least
we thought
11 plus win record.
Yeah.
Because of their division is easy, so that would be like, oh, they'll go 6-0, and their overall schedule is pretty easy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are massively disappointed. Their defense didn't live up what they usually are. Their offense was atrocious, and
they kept Dennis Allen.
So yeah, Saints are a D team. You got the Colts, our team. We're both wearing Colts stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, Colts are an A. I mean, there's no debate, right? Okay, so the same argument could be made with the Texans that they should be S. The difference is Texans made the playoffs, they won the division, and they had a playoff win. The Colts, ultimately, the season they lost their quarterback of the future for the year in Anthony Richardson. They had drama with Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the year, and then eventually he got injured as well. Shane Steichen, rookie head coach, didn't know what the expectations were going to be. My opinion, the defense was a little bit of a letdown with Gus Bradley. Secondary-wise, I think the pass rush played phenomenal. O-line performed a lot better. But at the end of the day, Shane Steichen had Gardner Minshew as a Pro Bowler.
Pro Bowl Gardner Minshew.
The game planning, the play calling, everything was there. He had the team motivated as an offensive guy, including the defense. And yeah, if Goodson made that catch or Minshew made that throw properly, I know there's a debate that Steichen should have had JT in for sure, but if that happened, we probably would have flip-flopped the Colts and Texans. So just because they didn't make the playoffs is the only reason why I have them in A. I'm not sure if you agree with that.
Essentially, it just came down to 1 game. Yeah, I mean, I feel like
we had to go with the facts.
The Texans beat the Colts when it mattered most, and that's also a big reason why they're in S. I got the Cowboys. Cowboys for me are a B tier team. They finally won a division, but they choked again in the playoffs, right? You got at the end of the day, we're factoring in everything. You got to respect what they did in the regular season.
Yeah.
Right? Dak had his almost MVP moments, right, until he choked near the end. CeeDee Lamb was like the second leading receiving yards leader behind Tyreek Hill. He had an incredible year, but again, they choked in the playoffs and lost in the first round to They became the first ever 2 seed to lose to a 7 seed as well in the NFL. So
Yeah, I agree with it.
I would put them lower, but
They
I
won
have
the
to
division.
respect. They won the division. I
No,
have to
their
respect.
regular season was insane.
Their regular
This
season
year.
was really
Minus
good.
a couple of games. Like they lost to Arizona, obviously, and the one Niners loss, I would say, was like their
Bad
two
ones.
woeful ones. So yeah, outside of that, they won the division. You got to respect that. But again, regular season team like always and choking the playoffs.
You got the Ravens.
Yes, the Kansas City game could have been way better, for sure. But outside of that, Lamar's MVP. They had, in my opinion, Mike McDonald rightfully got a job with the Seattle Seahawks, who was their young DC there. The defense played outstanding. Kyle Hamilton emerged as a safety. Obviously, they still have the top guys in Roquan Smith up there as well. On the offensive side, Lamar showed when he has weapons, he's not quote-unquote running back, right? I get it. Lamar's question is always going to be the playoff performance. I hope that he'll turn it around next year. But outside of that, like they were by far the most consistent team in the regular season. The losses they had, yes, were on them, but they were late in game situations. They weren't. I don't think they got beat badly by any team.
No.
Yeah, in the playoff game, they destroyed the Texans. I thought, their defense kept them in the game. Obviously, Lamar and that offense didn't do well offensively. But outside of that, yeah, because of that, they're an A-tier team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They've been the best by far. We're the best team in the regular season. The Eagles, I'm putting them at C tier. It could be lower. Reason is not lower. They also did start off like 10-1, right? They were proving us wrong a lot of the time. We're like, okay, they're winning, but they're not playing at their best. But they're winning. So
Eventually, prove me right.
we can't really knock them.
Yeah.
Until they started losing, and yeah, one of the worst collapses I've seen in recent
they won
memory.
one game in the last 7, including the playoff game or something like that.
Yeah, lost in the wild card round to the Buccaneers. They lost to their last game of the year to the Giants to miss out on the division as well. So yeah, Eagles are a C tier team just because. Honestly, I could put them lower just because they had like double-digit wins. I have to respect
The
that.
difference between them and the Saints, where we thought they were going to be the same tier, as in, I'm not saying that they're the same tier, as in that they both were Super Bowl candidates. Clearly, the Super Bowl contender here was the Eagles. The Saints were just going to be a top 2 team conference-wise. One of them made the playoffs. One of them didn't. That's why they're in the C tier team.
Cardinals, you got the Cardinals.
D. And here's why. People are going to be like, oh, well, they were bottom. They're getting a bottom 4 pick. Keep in mind, this team was projected to be the worst team in football. They beat the Cowboys. Again, I'm not judging it based on anyone could win one game. I get that. They were by far a better team than the Panthers were. At least Gannon had them playing even without Kyler. They had close games. They obviously lost most of those, clearly. If you want to put an F tier for not getting a bottom 3 pick and keeping Marvin Harrison Jr., or you could trade it away Kyler Murray or draft a QB that way, sure. But this is strictly on the regular season or the whole season in general. They were supposed to be the worst team in football, in our opinion. They ended up being the 4th worst. I get that based on draft pick, but they were supposed to be there. In my opinion, they matched, if not slightly exceeded our expectation, if anything.
No, they exceeded my expectations. They 100%.
It's not even just based on record, it's based on the play as well. Just when
they
you
were
watch
actually
them.
close, right?
Yeah.
Like the Panthers got destroyed.
Yeah.
In games. Cardinals, I don't think they really got destroyed.
They got destroyed in some games.
I know, but like, even if it is, they got destroyed late. Because I remember most of their games, they were close at halftime and they probably choke in the second.
Yeah.
Right? And
So,
then
yeah.
some of the games were obviously close till the end.
Yeah.
I got the Chargers. They're an F team. Staley, F, got fired. Herbert's injury, and he didn't look good himself this year
Because of the injury.
the
Defense was atrocious. That was the biggest
defense
thing.
was atrocious, yeah, and finished last in their division. Finished behind the Broncos. You finished behind the Raiders. It's pretty disappointing. And yeah, so we gotta hope for a bounce back year for Herbert and company. But they got Harbaugh, so let's see what happens there. You got the Bills.
They were that team that was gonna be like D or F if Ken Dorsey was probably still their OC. Now Joe Brady comes in, changes up the offense a little bit, and they almost beat the Chiefs once again. Simple as that. If Tyler Bass made that kick, they were bringing to overtime probably, and then who knows what could have happened there. Especially now, Josh Allen would have gotten the ball again most likely if he had gone. If he would have won the ball back, if Kansas City had first possession like they did in the Super Bowl or when they played why can't I talk? When they played each other 2 years ago, right? So outside of that, yeah, they're an 8-tier team. They went finished off. They went undefeated up until the Kansas City game, I believe, after the 6-6.
Yeah. They finished 11-6. Yeah.
Yeah, so they won 5. They went 5-0 there, and then they won their playoff game against
The
the
Steelers.
Steelers, and then they obviously lost. They almost beat the Chiefs, right?
Bro,
So
you're
they're
lagging,
8
man.
game. I don't know. I forgot
It
about.
actually pisses me off. One thing that pisses me off, right?
Was the start?
No, the storybook. Because of Allen Mahomes, we got the overtime rule changes,
Yeah.
and the first game after could have been Allen and Mahomes, but screw you, Tyler Bass. All right, I got the Patriots F tier team. Mac Jones disappointing. Bill Belichick is gone. You're probably looking for another quarterback. Everything was pretty dreadful in the Patriots land, New England land, and it's weird to see because we never seen New England beat this shit ever.
This is the first offseason where Bill Belichick is not in control of anything, so it's gonna be crazy to see. And on top of that, they were just boring to watch. At least Arizona was somewhat still kind of fun to watch a little bit
Yeah,
compared to them.
you got the Rams.
A. Yeah, I would say A because again, I was higher on them than you were
I was
at the beginning of the
I was
year
low on them
when
yeah.
we did the original tier list. They made it to the playoffs. They had a great run, and they were one of our features in that video of which sleeper could win the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they lost a close game to the Detroit Lions. But outside of that, like again, many, not even just you, but many people thought they weren't going to be great. They were probably like a bottom 7 pick, right? I thought they were still a good enough team if healthy. Health obviously helped, and on top of that, Puka Nacua helped as well. So if Puka Nacua wasn't there, they probably would have not been this good, or if he was just like a regular rookie. Any case, but yeah, I think A is fair because they exceeded everyone's expectations. If they had won a playoff game or two, then I probably could have put them in S, but A is fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got the Bengals. Bengals for me are going in the B tier. Reason being is that they finished 9-8. They were one game out of the playoffs, right? The Bengals had a lot of issues, lot of issues. There were a lot of concerns with Bengals, especially with Joe Burrow, his injuries, and
Even before the season.
I know, but like
Or
yeah,
before
that's
the
that's what I'm
injury.
saying.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of issues. Like he had an injury in preseason, didn't look good at all in the first 4 weeks. They finally started picking it up. Then Joe Burrow obviously had to go out with his hand injury and was out for the rest of the year. In comes Drake. That's when we thought they're done. Right,
Yeah.
the Bengals are the playoff race now. But Jake Browning comes in and does an incredible job. Credit goes to Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, who deservedly got a head coaching spot as well for the job they did with Jake Browning. Because Jake Browning did not make me miss Joe Burrow type of thing. Like he played
Yeah.
incredible. So yeah, so they're a B tier team for me. Packers.
A. Now that I'm looking at it, a lot of these teams exceeded our expectations.
They did.
But yeah, they're A tier team. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the division. Jordan Love showing that he is the next Green Bay great quarterback after Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. And they're the youngest team in the NFL, made the playoffs, almost beat. They beat the Cowboys, and then they almost beat the Niners
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, you could have, if they had beaten the Niners, they were easily S tier. But I'm gonna give them A just because they did not win the division either. I would have given them Houston Texan status. You still can if you want to argue it, but yeah, I think A is fair.
I think A is fair as well. Yeah, I think A is fair. I got the Lions. They're A tier team.
Yeah.
Right. Head coaching was incredible until it wasn't. But we're gonna focus on the good. Jared Goff, what a bounce back of a career he had. Like it's incredible what he's been able to do. Obviously, you got Amon-Ra, you got their O line, you got their defense who actually played better. Obviously, it could still improve. Don't get me wrong. It could still be much better. But compared to what they were last year, it was incredible. NFC Championship game, they beat the Rams, which was a
Should have been in the
scary
Super
game.
Bowl.
It was a scary game for the Lions. You beat the Buccaneers, which you're supposed to. And yeah, you should have been in the Super Bowl, but you didn't. But incredible season for the Detroit Lions overall. So they're an A-tier team. You got the Browns.
Also A tier. The reason is simple. They had 4 quarterbacks, and the 4th quarterback ended up being 39-year-old Joe Flacco, who was probably sitting here watching a TV, and then he got the opportunity, and he led them to the playoffs. And unfortunately, the playoff game wasn't the greatest for them. Their defense was a massive letdown after having what many people say a historic type year. Yes, you got Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski as well, which helps in that case. And then Myles Garrett obviously ended up being your depoy. But yeah, I think it is fair because honestly, I thought they were gonna be this. They would have been good with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he kind of was a letdown, and then the other guys you guys had were letdowns in the backup and PJ Walker and DTR. But yeah, so
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, like similar to your Browns take, I would have put them B, but one team was wild card one.
Here's the thing. I would have put them B if they
If they were not wild card one.
no. If they even if they're wild card one, I was
Yeah.
putting them B. It's because of Joe Flacco's story. They're
Yeah.
in A at the end of the day. That's the main reason why. Otherwise, if they were wild card one with Deshaun Watson, I'm putting them in B. Especially that they lost their first round game as well. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers for me are an A tier team. Again, one of the teams that we thought were gonna be a top 5 pick, especially me. But they overall had a good squad. They won the division. They won a playoff game. The reason why I put them below the Texans is because I do believe the Texans roster, was just way worse than the Buccaneers. I feel like, when you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Vita Vea, you have Carlton Davis, you have Antoine Winfield, who was snubbed from the Pro Bowl. I just feel like the roster was better. So that's the only reason why I have them a tier lower than the Houston Texans.
Disagree. I mean, your points are valid. I still think they're an S tier team because they, at the end of the day, this is our projections. We still we had them worst in the division, one of the worst teams in football. All right, that's number one. Number two, we didn't know what Baker was going to be. He proved to be a Pro Bowler this year. Number three, they won a playoff game, and it was against the Eagles, who many people thought were contenders and should have lost that game as well. Because of that playoff win, I got to give them S. I got to match them with Houston because they were both supposed to be bottom 5 picks anyways. I understand their roster was slightly better, but yeah, I still think they're an S tier team. I'm not saying that because we have many teams in A right there, but no one thought Tampa was going to be this good, and no one thought Tampa Bay wasn't even going to win a playoff game. And now in hindsight, yes, it made sense that they were going to beat the Eagles. Sure, that was one of the upsets many people had, but at the same time, people still gave respect more to the Eagles like we did as well. When we made our prediction video during the playoffs, I still think they're an S tier team because of that. Because they were supposed to be last in their division according to us, in the weakest division in football. Now think about it that way.
That's also another thing.
The two South divisions were supposed to be the weakest in
That's
football.
also another point that they were in the weakest division of football.
But that's my point. So were the Texans.
Were
thought
they,
the same.
were they though?
But yeah, the Saints.
No,
okay,
no, when you play out the season,
yeah.
the AFC South was levels above the NFC South.
Here's my thing though. When you look at the division, when you're looking at the preseason expectation, the Saints were supposed to be a better team than the Jags, probably, if not equal. Everybody else was supposed to be in the same tier. Amongst the Atlanta was supposed to be slightly better than even the AFC South teams at the beginning of the year, right? Tampa, okay, sure. If they were like Green Bay, they did not win the division. 100% agree with you. They won the division. At the end of the day, they won the division against the team that we thought was supposed to go nuts, and we put them in D tier. Right? And they beat the Eagles, who were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. So that's why I think they're an S tier team. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. That's my point.
It's fair.
Now, I wish we had a third person here to break the tiebreaker, but
I'll move them up.
thank you.
I'll budge. All right, you got the Broncos.
C only, yeah, C tier. Horrible start to the year. They still finished under 500. They bounced back a bit with Sean Payton. I thought they were going to be a sneaky playoff team from the beginning of the year. Clearly, I was proven very wrong to the point where Nick Shook was making fun of me when we had him on earlier in the year for the podcast we recorded with him. But I still think they're a C-tier team because, ultimately they still finished under 500. They had a chance at the end. They were on that pace of when the Colts went 1-5 and made the playoffs with Andrew Luck, the first year of, I think, Frank Reich it was. But ultimately, this team fell short. They ended up finishing 8-9. So I think they're a C-tier team.
I disagree with you. I think they're a D-tier team. Reason being, as I know they went 8-9, don't get me wrong, but their record is way better than they actually was. When you think about their playoff chances, they were out 3 weeks prior. They weren't 8-9 because they missed out on 1 or 2 games. They were out for a month before the season was done. Reason being, they lost to the Patriots. That's how they got eliminated from the playoffs. They lost to the Patriots.
Okay.
Right. And obviously, you had 70 points dropped on you. I don't care. That's still an embarrassment.
I forgot about that.
I don't care. The Broncos are dropping down from my list.
Okay, go. Do it. I can't argue with the 70. I cannot argue with the 70.
And you can't. And also, you had the drama with Russell Wilson being benched for the last 2 games as well.
Yeah.
Avoiding the salary, which is honestly fair business. You can't. It's business at the end of the day. But yeah, no. You lost to the Patriots to lose your playoff chances. You lost to the Patriots, and you got 70 dropped on you. They were as bad as I expected to be. And
Sure, I'll give you that one.
it's me.
Yeah.
Falcons. Again, D tier. Um, actually, no, wait. I'll go C tier. Falcons C tier just because um, they were still better than I expected. Their defense was actually really good. It was
O-line.
really, really good.
O-line was good.
O-line was really good. The only reason these guys sucked is because they had no quarterback. And they were in it till the end, right? Like, they still had a chance of making the playoffs
But division, yeah.
by winning the division.
The other thing is because I was ready to say C tier only because they did exactly what we thought they were gonna do.
Yeah, that's true
That's
too.
it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mainly,
So
they
that's
they didn't stink the bed like the Panthers, and they were in it. It just happened to be the last 2 weeks kind of determined who were gonna be the two playoff teams.
I know
out
the
of division.
Falcons have like easy fixes or like they're clear fixes. I'm not saying it's easy.
Just to clarify, the preseason expectation of the Saints was much higher than the Falcons, which is why the Saints are in D. That's it.
Yeah, like
Before people go
Falcons,
crazy.
we expected this from the Falcons at the end of the day, right? And this still kind of low key impressed me for how how bad their quarterback was and their head coach as well. Chicago Bears, you got the Bears.
See, obviously, dreadful start. Tyson Badger came in, got some wins. But then Justin Fields came in, and it did not. It wasn't like a drop off, right? He instead, I think, excelled.
Well, excelled,
Right?
It wasn't
Like,
the
you
same
know, because
level.
the reason why I say Tyson Badger got some of those wins, right?
I know, but at the end of the day,
But
Fields took it to another level.
that's what I'm saying. Fields took it to another level. They fixed out what they've realized that DJ Moore is the guy they had to go to as well. They have options now. Either they trade Fields or they trade that first overall pick or they keep the first overall pick and draft probably Caleb Williams. I don't see them drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., but I won't be surprised. At the end of the day, it's football. We're just here to make our predictions. And yeah, C tier because even though it was a dreadful start, their projection was supposed to be worse than the Broncos anyways. And they finished 7-10, sure. But again, Justin Fields has made it a debate of that's their quarterback of the future. And he played well. The team ended up playing well. We'll see what happens with the new offensive system if they end up keeping him. But yeah, I think C is fair. This is what we projected them anyways, similar to the Falcons.
Yeah, I got the Jags. Jags are a D tier team. Reason being is you lost the division, and the way you lost it was kind of like how the Eagles lost it. They lost 4 out of their last 5 games, right? They were the division leaders around from I think week 4 onwards. Around then, up until week 18, they lost to the Tennessee Titans, right? Like the the Jaguars were playing the favorable matchup and they lost. They choked. Trevor Lawrence choked in the last month. Doug Pearson did not do a good enough job in the last month. Calvin Ridley was very up and down, and overall their defense was up and down as well. So the Jaguars for me are a D tier team. They had a collapse like the Eagles, and the only difference is the Eagles were 10-1 at one point.
Yeah, I agree with you. That in the easiest division, one of the easiest divisions of football, if the Saints are down there, you got to be with them.
All right, you got the Niners.
So this is where I was going back and forth with S and A, but I'm gonna go with S only because they were by far the best team in the NFC. I gotta give them that respect. I know they lost a Super Bowl, and the way they lost a Super Bowl wasn't the greatest, and that's on Kyle Shanahan for the most part, in my opinion. But yeah, I think by far, if you look at the regular season, they were the best team in the NFC by far. And the playoffs, they at least won the games to get into the Super Bowl. They showed adversity in those as well, but then instead of crumbling like they did in the regular season a few times, they won those games, went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, you gotta give them the credit there.
Yeah,
one team ends up winning it, unfortunately, but you happen to represent the other side. So
yeah, you had to give them respect, right? They did everything that they were supposed to do, apart from winning the Super Bowl. Clearly the best team in the NFC. They did what they were supposed to do in the playoffs in a different fashion, obviously coming from behind, which they never usually do. So yeah, it was an impressive season for the Niners. You gotta give them the respect still. The Raiders, for me, they are a low key. I might put them B. Reason being is I expected Raiders to be the worst team in the division, right? You had Jimmy Garoppolo at their starting quarterback. He did what everyone thought he was going to do, which was play terribly. Josh McDaniels was terrible. But in comes in Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce to make it a conversation that with 2 weeks remaining in the football season, they had a chance of making the playoffs. Obviously, got eliminated to when they lost to the Colts. But the fact that this team beat the Chiefs, went on their run, put themselves back in the conversation, And I think eventually they had the same record as the Broncos as well. So they were 8-9. They missed it by 2 games. I gotta give them credit for what they did. I know, like, it seems very high. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think it's high.
But the mid-season turnaround they had was very impressive, especially for that squad.
The mid-season turnaround did not result in a playoff spot, unfortunately. So because of that, they're a C-tier team. I don't think they're 2 tiers ahead of the Broncos. That's the why. So I would say C-tier team because, they made changes. They did better than expected. I get it. They were one of the last teams to beat the Chiefs, I believe, as well before the Chiefs went on their run. But at the end of the day, they still fell short by 2 games, not just 1. They weren't there. They were already out of the picture. They were not in the picture in the final week, I believe, right?
Well, they were in the second last week, yeah.
Yeah, so because of that, they're a C-tier team. I can't put them in B. Bro, I don't want to disrespect the Bengals that much. Like what the Bengals have done, so...
Yeah, that's true. Now that I look at who the teams are,
Yeah.
I might have went over optimistic. I think C's fair still. Only reason I went B is I just want to big up the Ravens. Because they had Raiders because they had... You got to give them credit for what they did. Especially, this is a team that always has drama.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that they were able to do this was incredible. All right, you got the Dolphins.
B. I mean, you could argue C, but I wouldn't say B still. They dropped 70, so I think that alone puts them 2 tiers ahead of the Broncos.
Yeah.
But the other reason is, unfortunately they choked. They had the division in their hands, literally in their hands until that last week and dropped it to the Bills. But they were still one of the high-powered offenses. Unfortunately, their wins were against the weaker teams, except for the Cowboys win. Outside of that, all their losses were against the top teams, including playoffs, which they lost to the Chiefs. So I know you're probably going to argue C, but I still think B is fair because, I mean, honestly, the more I'm talking, it might have to be C, but I think it's still B tier is still.
I give it B. I'll give it B. At the end of the day, they did have a good season. They made the playoffs, right? Did they do well in the playoffs? No. But they did, at the end of the day, they did what they're supposed to be, right? Like, we didn't expect them to win the division, right? Like, we had the Bills winning the division, right? We expect them to be a wild card team. They were an incredible team, and they did what we thought they were going to do. They just did it in a more disappointing fashion.
Okay.
I got the Vikings. I'm putting the Vikings at C. Reason being is, I think in the preseason, we had them at A or B, right? Like, the Vikings are a good team. Offensively, they were good as well. Defensively, they stepped up, in my opinion. Like, Brian Flores did a pretty decent job for that defense, especially how bad they were. But it was a flip story for the Vikings from previous year. I think they were like 11-1 in like 1-score games or something like that. But this year was the opposite. They were like close to 0 wins. Kirk Cousins goes down with Achilles. Jefferson missed a bunch of the season. Hawkinson missed the rest of the year.
They stayed afloat.
Stayed afloat, right? They do drop from our preseason rankings for sure, but at the end of the day, you can't disrespect, you know, because they had Nick Mullins and they had Jaron Hall, and they still managed to
Josh Dobbs
as well. They still managed to have a chance with the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing else to say.
Giants.
So if it's me, it should be F. But I did acknowledge my mistake in the middle of the year. So because of that, I'm going to say D. I feel like they did a little bit, not a turnaround, but they did fine afterwards. I'm not saying but they were much better than the teams in F, in my opinion. As the season went on, very disappointing year, don't get me wrong, but I think D is nothing much to say. They're just a D team.
And then their New York counterpart, the Jets, are also in D. Sucks because injuries. Rodgers was obviously a big blow. Then Zach Wilson got thrown in a situation where he really shouldn't have been in. But at the end of the day, it's the NFL. Anything could happen.
And no, to be fair, he wasn't supposed to be there. But at the end of the day, you were still a second overall pick for a reason. So still,
it was so bad. Yeah, I'm not giving him credit.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying in general.
But Jets, they always find a way, and they found a way again this year. That's all I have to say. It's it's New York teams. Steelers.
B. They're a definition of a B tier team. There will always be 500 under Mike Tomlin. In this case, they were 3 games above 500. Found their way in the playoffs. Obviously, didn't do much in the playoffs. That's it. Nothing much to say, really. Honestly, they're the definition of a B tier team.
Yeah, for sure. I think they might be a better Cowboys in the sense that the Cowboys are actually supposed to win.
The Cowboys had expectations.
Yeah, the Steelers.
People still thought the Steelers would not make the playoffs, but hey, they made 500 and they make the playoffs always with Mike Tomlin.
Always find a way. The Seattle Seahawks are a C tier team for me. Reason being, they were below expectations. Geno Smith did take a step back for sure. Pete Carroll was let go. Their defense again wasn't living up to what they're supposed to be. So yeah, all around just a bad season compared to the one they had before, missing the playoffs. Lost to the Rams twice as well. So yeah, just a poor year for Seattle.
The last two will be quick. Tennessee Titans are a D tier team. Obviously they had to let go of Mike Vrabel, which I think was the wrong decision anyways, but good hire with Brian Callahan. Ultimately, yeah, the team did not perform well. You brought in DeAndre Hopkins hoping that you could still be the second best team to the Jags, which is weird because the two best teams ended up being, I know the Jags took the tiebreaker on Indy, but the bottom two teams ended up being the top two teams in my opinion overall. And yeah, I still think, yeah, you're a D tier team. Nothing much to say there.
All right, Washington Commanders. For me, they are an F tier team, and you might be wondering, the Cardinals are 4-13, the Commanders are 4-13, right? And the reason is this: they started off 2-0, which is crazy,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that for the rest of the 16 weeks you only won 2 more games was very disappointing. They did have like their moments, right? Like Sam Howell, like had his moments. Obviously, they are probably gonna draft a quarterback. Don't be wrong, but yeah, I just feel like it was gonna be one of those years. They were supposed to be the worst in the division. They were, but the issue was that they only won 2 games in 16 weeks, which is kind of my downfall for them.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing much to say. Like I said, second pick for a reason, probably Drake May. But and top of that, coach firing, and in my opinion, not the right coach hired. But I know they waited too long, so they had no
Yeah.
other option. But yeah, this is the tier list. Honestly, I'm fine with it.
Same, yeah.
Nothing much to say. Very well balanced in general too. But yeah, you good?
I'm fine with it. Yeah.
So yeah, for you guys watching, make sure you guys comment down below. What do you guys think? Were we crazy? Were we not? Where's your favorite team ranked on this tier list? Comment that down below. Other than that, we'll probably drop our NBA tier list coming out soon for the midway season. Check out our previous tier list. Compare it to the NFL tier list we did at the beginning of the year and see how different it was. But yeah, other than that, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.